From a clumsy moose stuck in the ice to some crafty frozen alligators, and even a fearless kitten rescue, here are 10 animals frozen in ice. Number 10. Frozen cow. A silly cow recently got stuck on an icy pond in what was at the same time both tragic and a little hilarious. The cow had wandered out onto the frozen pond, fell down, and then couldn't get back up. It didn't actually get trapped inside of the ice, but it was effectively trapped because the ice was so slippery that the cow couldn't walk on it. Then it just kind of gave up and sat on the ice, not knowing what to do. The heavy cow was in danger of possibly breaking through the ice and drowning. Luckily, the local Polk County Sheriff's Office arrived to save the frightened bovine, but they weren't quite sure exactly how to do it. The goofy cow had ventured about 30 feet out onto the ice. One of the deputies had to track down the owner of the cow, who then showed up at the pond with a lasso. He basically Wonder Womaned the cow back to dry land, where after a few minutes of rest, the cow managed to stand back up again on its own 4 feet and be taken back home, and we are almost positive it won't be trying to make any adventurous escape attempts again anytime soon. Number 9. The Arctic Hippo. Evidence of a strange hippopotamus-like monster was recently found on an Arctic island, leading ecologists to say that millions of years ago, the polar region of the Earth was about as balmy as the Sunshine State of Florida and populated by weird hippopotamus-like creatures. The evidence came in the form of fossil footprints, revealing that a plant-eating animal known as a pantodont had at some point been wandering around in the vast regions of the Arctic. The large footprints were found near a coal mine in Norway, just a couple miles inside of a mountain and a few hundred feet beneath the surface of the Earth. According to Appie Sloets, an expert in ecology from the Utrecht University in the Netherlands, the climate 55 million years ago was much different than it is today, in that it was exceptionally warmer. Instead of a barren and icy wasteland, the Arctic was a lush, temperate rainforest. As for the hippo-like monster, no more fossil evidence was discovered other than its footprints frozen in ice. Pantodonts were some of the first big mammals to evolve after the dinosaurs, about 65 million years ago. Number 8. Clumsy Moose. A couple had just finished their lunch in Sweden one day when they noticed what they thought was a large rock moving around in the frozen lake nearby. The couple grabbed their binoculars to get a better look, and what they found was not a rock at all, but a moose. The moose had somehow gotten itself stranded in the frozen ice, and was in serious danger of cracking it, falling in and drowning. The brave Swedish couple immediately put on their ice skates, grabbed hold of an axe, and took turns chopping a path through the ice so that the moose could find its way to the shore. Of course, nobody is really sure why the Swedish couple was already equipped with binoculars, ice skates, and axes, but let's just assume that's common gear to have handy in Sweden. It took about 30 minutes of chopping, but the couple was eventually able to clear a path and assist the moose back to dry land. The grateful moose disappeared back into the cover of the forest, and the couple was able to go home with the knowledge that they had saved one of these large and majestic creatures. Do you have any courageous stories of you saving an animal? If you do, let me know about it in the comments below. And go ahead and click on that subscribe button if you're new and liking the video too. Number 7. The baby seal. In the Canadian province of Newfoundland and Labrador, the ice was so extremely thick a few winters ago that some unexpected visitors got stuck off the shore of Bell Island. Locals spotted multiple seals trapped on the ice and unable to get back into the water. It's not clear how exactly the seals got stuck in the first place, but they seemed to be in a pretty rough spot. Witnesses with binoculars even spotted an adorable baby seal flopping around on the ice like a fish out of water, unable to go anywhere or do anything. According to the report from CBC, the thick ice prevented the seals from getting back into the Atlantic Ocean. The ice also prevented local ferries from operating. The seals were forced to just kind of sit in limbo until the ice withdrew enough that they could get back into the water. Mother Nature can be cruel sometimes. Number 6. Crafty Gators. Alligators inside of a North Carolina swamp were recently photographed with their noses sticking out of the frozen water. With abnormally cold temperatures, the swamp where the big reptiles had been living ended up being completely frozen over with ice for the first time. And the alligators seemed to be pretty prepared for the situation. The swamp park manager told local news that 18 of his American alligators froze on a Monday night and stayed frozen all the way through Tuesday. But apparently, they didn't really seem to mind all that much. The park manager said that it was as if the alligators knew exactly when the water was about to reach its freezing point, so they stuck their noses into the air just at the right time. Alligators are able to enter a state of brumation, which is similar to hibernation. By sticking their noses through the frozen surface, the gators were able to take a bit of a nap while still breathing. As you probably know already, alligators are pretty hardy animals, and apparently pretty crafty too. Even after enduring such frigid temperatures, the alligators thawed out and went back to business as usual. Number 5. Sad donkeys. There was a vicious cold snap in the country of Turkey a few years ago, and the animals were really not prepared for it. The people weren't ready either, but at least the people had houses with heat to go to. Sadly, a lot of the animals were left alone to freeze outside. And this is exactly what happened in the small village of Siverek, where someone photographed a group of unfortunate stray donkeys that had literally gotten frozen in place while standing still. The donkeys never even saw it coming. How could they? They were probably gathered together for warmth when the snow and cold literally turned them into standing ice sculptures. They were probably pretty confused, looking at each other and wondering why their donkey pals were turning into icy albino cartoons. But don't worry, the donkeys didn't freeze to death. The local villagers rescued the animals by taking them to a nearby stable, getting them warm and feeding them. The villagers had even used push brooms to get the chunks of ice out of the donkey's hair. But in the end, the donkeys were quite appreciative. They had suffered a pretty miserable ordeal. We are pretty sure that they aren't looking forward to the upcoming winters now that they've had a taste of just how cold they can get. Thank goodness for the kind people in Siverek. Number 4. Glacier Fox. In Scandinavia, one of the strangest natural sights ever seen was documented by an ice skater on Lake Bunn. This happened in the middle of January, when temperatures were well below freezing. The temperatures were so low that a fox had somehow gotten frozen underneath the surface of the ice while in the middle of swimming. The skater who found the animal thought he was looking at a piece of foam or rubber at first. It wasn't until he got closer that he saw it was actually a fox gazing out of the ice, frozen completely solid, less than a finger's length from the surface. The animal's whiskers could just be seen barely sticking out. The fox had probably been trying to take a shortcut across the lake when the ice cracked and it fell through a hole. Sadly, the fox couldn't see its way out and then drowned while trying to get to the surface. Then, with the frigid temperatures, the fox became preserved under the ice. As you can imagine, the skater had immediate regrets about being on the ice. After all, if a fox can break through the ice, so can a person. But don't worry, they got away safely. Number 3. Frozen Doggie. A poor little dog fell through the ice of a frozen lake and almost died. This is obviously not something anyone wants to hear about man's best friend, but rest assured, this story does have a happy ending. It all went down when Hardy the dog was running around the park, enjoying the day and having a wonderful time. Unfortunately, Hardy didn't quite understand how ice worked and decided he would run across the frozen lake. That ended abruptly when the ice shattered and Hardy fell into the freezing waters. He ended up hanging off the side of an ice sheet like Leonardo DiCaprio in the Titanic, waiting for someone to save him while slowly freezing to death. Well, fortunately someone did end up coming to his rescue. A local rescue officer put her life on the line to get the dog out of the frozen lake. This brave woman slid across the lake's surface equipped with a safety rope and a long metal ice pick. She pulled Hardy the dog from the water's chilly grasp, then managed to get him back to dry land, where the dog was warmed up and reunited with his family. In the end, Hardy was saved and only had a minor cut on his paw. He was definitely one lucky boy thanks to the courageous rescue officer. Number 2. The Prehistoric Puppy. Speaking of dogs frozen in the ice, a puppy was recently found frozen in the Siberian permafrost in Tomat in the Sakha Republic. The biggest difference between this puppy and the last one we talked about is that the frozen Siberian puppy was 14,000 years old. It was either some kind of dog or ancient wolf, officially known as a prehistoric canine now. And according to a genetic analysis done by Stockholm's Natural History Museum, there was a piece of extinct woolly rhinoceros found inside of the prehistoric canine's stomach. This ancient canine had apparently feasted on a woolly rhinoceros for its last meal before it froze. But here's the really interesting part about the prehistoric puppy. Scientists were able to determine that it had died almost immediately after eating the woolly rhinoceros. This is because the parts found inside of its stomach were not completely digested. One of the most popular theories is that the dog had been eating a baby rhino, and then the mother showed up and got some revenge, possibly killing the puppy. But no matter how the ancient dog died, it was quickly covered in ice and frozen for the next 14,000 years, until just recently when the Siberian permafrost began to melt. Number 1. Saving frozen kittens. While inspecting frozen oil wells near Tomahawk in northern Alberta, an oil worker stumbled upon an absolutely horrifying scene. He discovered 3 kittens stuck inside of the ice, and it looks like they had been there for quite some time. Kendall Dye-Wish thought quickly and came up with a plan to free the icy kittens. He ran back to his truck, grabbed his thermos full of hot coffee, and then poured the hot liquid all over the ice that was trapping the 3 kittens. Kendall was then able to pry the cats free and get them to safety. As for how the 3 kittens ended up in the ice, it appeared that someone had cruelly dumped them in the middle of nowhere because they probably hadn't felt like taking care of them anymore. If not for the quick actions of this man, the kittens very likely would have frozen to death while stuck in the ice. Kendall actually took the kittens back to his house, he fed them, he made sure they were warm, and at the end, a local family even agreed to rescue all 3 of them. Thank goodness for this Good Samaritan. Thanks for watching. What's the weirdest animal you've ever seen frozen in ice? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video and to hit the subscribe button for more amazing videos from the channel. See you next time.